All right, we're with James Guzman once again. Every week we chat about what's happening in the Americas, Latin America. We're both expats. Actually, I'm an ex-expat. I'm a Mexican now, and James is an American-born writer, insurance broker specializing in non-conventional markets and countries, founder of the Borderless blog and podcast. You can find him at jamesguzman.com or borderlessblog.com on Twitter. And if you need health insurance, borderlesshealthinsurance.com. ¿Qué está pasando en AMLOville, James?
Hey, Hrvoje, everything's good. Happy to report that San Miguel de Allende was once again has been elected as the number one city in the world by Condé Nast. That just came out just now, about an hour ago. They just released that.
Really? That's interesting. I think I'm gonna have to plan a visit to see you guys sometime this year or next out in San Miguel. So
if people are wondering, maybe they're interested as to what the top cities are. So number one, they've listed as San Miguel de Allende. It says you can spend hours browsing the galleries and pop-up shops at Fabrica Aurora textile factory that is now home to local artisans. The Rosewood San Miguel is a hidden oasis in the heart of the city. Number two is Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. Number three, San Sebastian, Spain. I've been there. That is a nice place. It's a beach town. Number four, Cambridge, United Kingdom. Number five, Salzburg, Austria. So that's the top five that has come out for Condé Nast as far as the best. They label it the best cities to visit in the world.
That is kind of subjective, though. So, I mean, I've been to different places.
It's definitely subjective. That's for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because I could think of. I mean, just thinking of like Victoria. I mean, Canada. First of all, it's Canada. I could just think of many other places I'd prefer to go aside from. Although I did have fun. Yeah, I mean, a nice time in Ontario, Toronto, Quebec, and Montreal. But
yes, what they do is they take a survey of all their readers, and they ask a select number of people that are travelers, and they ask them to take some sort of a survey, and then they just judge it off of that. So, evidently this is how. Look, I would not put it past them. There's some sort of, corruption or something going on. Perhaps because obviously if you get rated higher on this list, then that, if somebody's looking at, well, let me book an international vacation. If they see that it's rated high on this list, they'll probably book it quicker. So there might be something going on. I'm not sure, but supposedly this is done through all of the readers that they have a survey, and the one that's rated the highest, that's who wins. And San Miguel de Allende is number one for the third year in the row.
Well, I mean, that's good advertising for you. Let me advertise for my location in Mexico. I'm laughing because I'm going to cry otherwise. This weekend, this Sunday, this weekend, while I was, in church, the fanciest mall in Guadalajara, the second biggest city in Mexico, where I haven't been there in a while, but it's like where the wealthy people go. It's the fanciest mall. And there was a shooting. So, I had a bunch of narcos running around attempting to kidnap a businessman who was basically a car dealer that happens to have his own private security, which is interesting. And so there were just, I could have been there, eating Krispy Kreme donuts and drinking Starbucks while this happened. I just didn't happen not to be there. But there's video clips where there's like for 3 minutes, there was gunfire, and they were trying to kidnap a private businessman, car dealer, who had private security. And the good news is that only, I think one of the bodyguards of the businessman died, and there were injured on both sides of the criminals as well as the other bodyguards, but no civilians were killed. And it's funny, the government comes out, and I'm reading the news, and it says like they're criticizing he was using unregistered private security. I'm like, my response would be like, what the heck? Like, first of you government, how are you even allowing such a situation, to occur?
Yeah.
Forget about the unregistered private security, which probably helped, save the day. But anyways, that's just the weekend here in Mexico.
Yeah, well, thank God for unregistered security. I love private security and all those types of unregistered security. By the way, it kind of has to do with that. I don't know if you saw that the ridiculous case that the Mexican government is bringing against some weapons manufacturers in the United States. It was immediately thrown out, which it should have been. And I'm glad that there was some sort of sense here. But yeah, so this case so what they're trying to do is the Mexican government, believe it or not, is trying to say that a lot of the violence that has to do with cartels and stuff, that's the guilty parties are the weapons manufacturers and Smith and Wesson and all these different ones. And so they're going to bring cases to them to try to extract money from them for the nice weapons that they produce. So, obviously that's ridiculous. And the judge threw it out immediately. And so, yeah, that just happened a few days ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally ridiculous. I mean, blaming the tool, it's just because they're always, right. Everyone's always looking for a scapegoat, and let's just own up to it. Well, and they want to disarm us and then take total control over our lives. Apart from the shooting at the mall, which I could have been killed and not be here today, but I am. So we just continue another day. That's how I look at life. And AMLO signed a new agreement with private sector partners to fortify anti-inflation plan. And what he's doing is, we may have talked about this in the past. I've had some folks, I don't know if it was from Mises or whatnot, talk about how price controls don't work. But here he seems to be exempting companies from some taxes and health inspections, which is not price controls. And I think this is a very good thing. And he wants to protect the canasta básica, the basic, goods like 24 products. That's beans, rice, eggs, tortillas, sugar, soap. And he's got, companies that have signed on, and it's going to include supermarkets like Walmart and Chedraui and Soriana, local Mexican Walmart like supermarkets. And so, again, I think this is a positive sign for the middle and lower class, don't you think?
I like that a lot of where there's crisis that has to do with inflation or energy, that it's making your regular on the street person have to understand a bit of economics, right? So it's just like with energy. Yeah, I mean, why is the cost of gas so expensive? Well, it's supply and demand. So if you understand that, we actually need fossil fuels and other types of things in order to run, it's the lifeblood of our economy, then maybe they'll be kind of open to some of the ideas, especially not understanding what people are talking about with this pushing of this green agenda and killing all of basically the lifeblood of the economy. And the same thing with inflation. When people see prices increasing, well, yeah, that has to do with the increase of the money supply, which has happened, through COVID. Everybody can't just sit at home and not do anything, and the government just prints money and hands it out to people. And that's just not how an economy works. You have to produce things. And another thing, like you're talking about with AMLO, how if you lower subsidies, lower taxes, all of a sudden, voila, things are cheaper. Yeah, because the government makes everything more expensive. So I do like that. Maybe there's going to be a lot of people waking up to the real economics of things, that it's the government and their manipulation of the markets that makes everything more expensive and makes our lives worse. Maybe it's wishful thinking that people will put two and two together, but I think that little by little people might wake up to a lot of these type of like scams that the government plays on people.
And this is other story is kind of nuts, and maybe to get your thought from a free market libertarian perspective, going back to cryptos and NFTs. Apparently, a Mexican American businessman, he purchased what was it? He purchased Frida Kahlo, the famous, everyone knows her. Mexican artist. He purchased an untitled work of hers known as Fantasmones Siniestros, and in Miami in July, he burned it. It was worth, apparently, I think, was it $10 million? $10 million. It's from the artist's diary. It was valued at $10 million, and the purpose was so he wants to sell the I guess he's scanned it or digitized it and sell it as NFTs, and he's got I guess 10,000 NFTs he's created of Frida's diary, and now the Mexican government is looking into this because they're saying it's because of it's like a national treasure type thing, and I don't know. I mean, if he bought it, and I mean I can get it, but if he bought it, I guess he can decide what to do with it. But I mean, I don't know. This is like uncharted territory where we are now with cryptos and NFTs and this sort of thing. What's sort of your reaction?
I don't know. I have to look at the detail. I did see that story. I think that it's kind of ironic that something like this would be done for, like the image of a communist like Frida Kahlo. The whole thing with NFTs and crypto in general, it's very complicated, and I understand why people are attracted to it because they're fed up with the fiat system. They're fed up with how a lot of the even the nation states maybe are dealing with IP and intellectual property, and so maybe we can do this on the blockchain and things like that. But I think that we're way far away from a way that we can do this in a fair manner, I guess I'll put it. So yeah, I think for now, as we've seen within crypto, we've seen there's a lot of scams. I think that unless people really know what they're doing in the crypto market and really understand exactly the cryptocurrency that they're dealing with or the NFT that they're dealing with, I tell people just to avoid it because it's so complicated. And it's a big pool of sharks and scammers and stuff like that. So for the most part, I mean, yeah, of course, people can make money. You can make money in any Ponzi scheme or scam if you're on the right side of it. But for the most part, it's not, it's very risky. And I think that, probably there's going to be a lot of good things as far as society goes in the long run. But right now we're in very risky territory. People are trying out different things, and I mean, put your foot in if you want to, but it's you really have to know what you're doing.
That sort of reminds me of when we went to the conference at the beginning of the year in Sayulita, the Libertarian Podcasters Conference, and there was this couple there. Now, just looking back, I don't know if anyone knows them, but I just kind of seems odd. They were digitizing our faces, like drawing our faces, and then if you paid, they would take your email or something, and then if you paid, I don't know, it was like $20 or something, you were supposed to get an email of that image. I never got it. And then, later there was that lady, she just kind of seemed suspicious, and she was like getting people's numbers and using Signal. And I just out loud, I said, "Oh, I don't use the US funded messenger app Signal." And she kind of looked at me weird. And I'm like, yeah. And after Etienne Boissier's expose on Anarchapulco being hijacked or run by the CIA, infiltrated, and having him on my TNT show, I'm starting to think, well, why wouldn't they do the same thing to the Libertarian Conference? And I wouldn't be surprised if those two were feds. I don't know. There must have been at least one fed at the Libertarian Conference in Sayulita. They're scanning our faces, so now they have records of us attending this libertarian, anti-statist, anarchist event. anyways, crazy
Wow.
times that we live in.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's pretty wild.
Because they never follow through. That's kind of weird. So or they were just grifters or scammers. That's common in the crypto space. I don't know. Took my $20 and ran. But it just I forgot to mention as well. You're talking about the economy and getting people to think about inflation. And I saw on my Twitter feed today, promoted by Twitter, apparently, and this is in Mexico, advertisement, BlackRock backed. There's a new podcast, and it had two young Mexican women talking about inflation. It's like a BlackRock, new BlackRock something podcast. And I'm like, if anyone knows anything, who's going to listen to that? I mean, BlackRock, financed.
Yeah. Well, the CIA just they just launched their podcast too.
Yeah, the Langley Files. I still haven't listened to the first episode. I got to get around to it. So, yeah, interesting. But another big piece of news here in Mexico over the weekend, and I heard this first from Mexicans before I found it online, was there's been a hack leaking thousands of Mexican Defense Ministry documents, which in those documents contain information about the Mexican president's medical issues, including a serious heart problem he suffered earlier this year. And this hack was leaked to the media outlet Latinus by the Guacamaya group of Central American hackers. Or maybe it was the deep state, the U.S. NATO. I don't know, because AMLO has been criticizing NATO too much. But again, just a bad example of how governments are doing a really crappy job of managing their cybersecurity.
Obviously, this is going to be something that's going to be more and more on the radar of people, that they have to, whether they like it or not, try to think about their cybersecurity and things like that, because obviously the government is not going to be doing a good job of that.
But on the flip side, another story, same day, came out today. This has been reported in the past. There's that Israeli spyware Pegasus. Many governments have purchased this, as well as criminal actors, not just state actors, but non-state actors. And it's been used on a number of targets. I remember reading the story about how the Mexican government or government / corporations which run the government / I don't know, criminal, whatever. I think it was a few years ago, they wanted to add a sugar tax because there's, this issue with obesity. So many Mexicans drink Coca-Cola. It's unbelievable. Like, I see workers today. I saw a mechanic walking down the street with a cold Coca-Cola. I'm like, how can you drink? Stop drinking that. Just drink, water or something. But it's they need to stop drinking that. But so what happened in this case some years ago? They were going to add the sugar tax, and there were some academics, professors working on this law to bring it about. And they somehow their cell phones got this Pegasus spyware, which allows who's ever using it to completely take over your cell phone. Completely do whatever they want with their remote control. They can do anything. And they were, planting, fake information, fake evidence, planting that he was committing adultery, in the way to sort of discredit him. So now what's happened, it says that the Mexican government or army has allegedly continued to use spyware designed to hack into the cell phones of activists and dissidents. So there's reports that this is ongoing. So it's I guess it's you know how it goes. You F around and find out. So the Mexican government's getting hacked while it's hacking Mexicans. So full circle.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw this, but Blinken is now going to he's coming down to Latin America, and he's meeting with Colombia, Chile, and Peru. Did you run across this?
I just literally read the headline before we connected. He's doing a tour.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He said, we are not judging countries based on where they fall on the political spectrum, but rather their commitment to democracy, the rule of law, and human rights. And so I thought that was kind of interesting because I think we've mentioned it, in the past in the show that we do weekly, that, this kind of idea that the pink wave or kind of a lot of these, right wing, left wing, whatever you want to call them, these different people that are being elected, the idea that they're not plugged into the globalist or neoliberal or corporatist agenda does not seem to be the case. It seems to be that they're kind of trying to rebrand this global order in a more populist thing. They saw that, well, it's going this way, and so let's put our own leaders up and pretty much hijack the movement. And so I just thought that one, the beginning of this quote, "We are not judging countries based on where they fall in the political spectrum." Yeah, that just shows it. It's like I think that there are a lot of people that are leftists or consider themselves to be leftists that think that a lot of these, especially in Latin America, there's people, they're rising up for the people and all this type of stuff. And they don't understand that even the, those supposedly left-wing rebel causes or whatever, these have all been co-opted by the, globalist factions or, whatever you want to call it, but the Great Reset crowd. So I think that Blinken's visit to Latin America kind of really shows that. So that's going to be coming up the next week. So we'll see how that goes.
I would totally agree with you. I mean, they've got a deep toolbox. The deep state's got this toolbox. They can co-opt, hijack movements, run counter-revolutionary operations, send in the economic hitmen and jackals and so forth. And I think they're just running with the current trend, and then they can just, remake it, steer it whichever way they like. I just did a quick search on Google News related to digital nomadism, and you're really starting to see a trend now. Just let me just read these quick headlines so you can sort of get a picture. It says Portugal is launching a digital nomad visa specifically for remote workers. By the way, separately, Croatia already has or is rolling that out. Another headline, Costa Rica offers lessons in converting short-term tourists to digital nomads. Spain readies new visa to attract remote workers. And here's traveler.com. There's never been a better time to become a digital nomad. And it's funny, in the first paragraph, they cite a report by the World Economic Forum. Malaysia, new digital nomad program forthcoming. And of all places, Albania digital nomad conference brings top entrepreneurs to Tirana. So again, this is just a quick search, and you can see this is sort of exploding. And I guess it goes to some of what we've talked about, what I've talked about a lot, this push towards globalization, one world government, and global citizenship, and global digital citizenship, I guess, where, at least this new economy will allow you to work from wherever, which I guess is kind of a cool thing. Any thoughts on these developments, James?
I think it's inevitable, honestly. I mean, whether it's good or bad or whatever, I try to avoid the moralizing of any of these, technological innovations and how they push society in general. I think that as far as people being able to work remotely, do things online, obviously, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out that this is going to happen. There's going to be more people that are going to be able to work as the internet is more entrenched in our society, and robotics and all this type of stuff. There's less kind of physical labor that has to be done. More people are going to be working in industries like this, and they're going to be able to work from wherever they can in the world. So they're going to go to places that are less expensive, possibly, and better weather. I think that has a lot to do with what you see in, say, like the United States, with a lot of people moving south. As they retire or as they get remote jobs and things like that, they're going to move farther south to Florida, to Texas, to Arizona. And sooner or later, they're going to realize that, well, why don't I just, what's keeping me in the United States, right? Because it's, half the cost for me just to cross that border. So, I think people are going to be doing that. And if it's allowable, I do think it's possible they'll spring something else on us that will stop people from moving freely throughout countries, kind of like COVID did. But maybe something even more severe. But yeah, I mean, I think finding other places now ahead of time, and whether you call yourself a digital nomad or an expat or whatever you want to call yourself, but just looking for a plan B or something like that is less expensive, more livable. Just go ahead and getting a permanent residency, a citizenship if you can. I think that makes sense, and it's an inevitable trend of where we're going. So whether you like it or not, you might as well try to figure out if it might behoove you to do that for your own life.
Yeah, the trend seems to be, for example, Portugal announced plans this week to offer a new work visa that would allow remote capable workers to relocate to the country for up to a year. I think the Croatian digital nomad visa is a year. In Costa Rica, it says under their program, digital nomad visa holders can stay up to 3 months and then extend their stay for up to 2 years. And then in Malaysia, again, they can stay for up to 3 to 12 months initially, and then extend for up to 12 months per application. So most countries seem to be sort of following this same sort of thing. And that article, again, from Traveler is interesting. It says that digital nomad is a term coined in 1997 by authors Tsugio Makimoto and David Mann, talking about neo-nomads, new Bedouins, vagabonds, free agents, laptop hobos. And they reference Arthur C. Clarke saying he predicted this sort of, in a way, in 1964, where he talked about a world where, in the future, where we can contact our friends anywhere on Earth, even if we don't know their actual location. It will be possible in that age, maybe 50 years from now, for a man to conduct his business from Tahiti or Bali just as well as he could from London, and foreseeing the death of the city, worried that the world might become one big suburb. And just in related news, I saw Forbes Mexico. It's talking about 5G being rolled out in Mexico, and they're calculating, experts say, that by 2025, 2026, 5G will be working 100% in Mexico. So we are, about 4 years away at least from 5G. And so we're 3 minutes to midnight. James, any final thoughts or other interesting things going on?
Rage Against the Machine has concludedly canceled their whole tour. They did because of COVID. And now Zach De La Rocha says that he sprung his Achilles tendon, and so they're completely done. So that's it. No more Rage Against the Machine. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know that I have anything else interesting to share, but we still
got 2 minutes. Just any thoughts on Brazil, Bolsonaro, Lula? I think it was sort of a tie, and so they're at the end of the month they're going to have like another round, right?
It's pretty close, and it's pretty interesting. And it seems to be that most people are predicting that Lula's going to win. Whatever, I don't know. It's really hard for me to understand what to make of all this. But the fact that the whole international financial press, it was so against Bolsonaro, makes me like him. It's kind of like AMLO or Trump, or it's like the fact that the whole, all these internationalists, globalists, whatever neoliberals you want to call them, are so against them, makes me think that maybe there's something good about them. That's my take on that.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Anyways, where's the best place for people to find you on the internet?
Yeah, jamesguzman.com is kind of a quick place to go, but borderlessblog.com has all of my stuff, podcasts and things like that. And go to the Borderless Podcast, and you'll be able to listen to me and Hrvoje. The last few months we've had every week, we've been doing these type of things, a lot of interesting content, all there for free. So check it out.
All right. We'll talk to you next week, James, and stick around. We'll be right back after the break.